No, run. Run, Coco. Get as far away as possible from Kefrey. Get the hell away from this dude. He's too sus right now. I don't trust him. I don't like this. I don't like this for Coco's sake. I like this from a storytelling standpoint. I just don't like this for Coco's sake. But my gosh, they're really painting Kefrey out to be a bad guy or villain type of character. Not that I think that it's going to go that route. Like, I think in the end, it's going to turn out that Kefrey is justified in all this stuff. He knows something that sort of excuses him doing all this stuff. The obvious assumption here is that he knows that the Great Hall is bad. And I think I talked about this previously. I think there was a reason why Kefrey himself does not trust the Great Hall, and it's probably due to him knowing something. He knows that the way they handle things is wrong, or potentially he knows that the Brim Hats are actually involved with them, and that if they find out, they're just going to sweep this all on the rug, and they're going to wipe out anybody that is involved that could bring this to light. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think even it implies it severely in this episode, the idea that he's like, they can't know about this. Specifically about this thing. Now, it does imply that he wants to use it for his own gain, and that's why he doesn't want them to know, but there's like an element here where he doesn't want them to know for the sake of them being involved or whatever. But yeah, just how it plays out this entire thing, the question mark is, again, is what he believes the Great Hall will do, and that might be the aspect of them essentially notifying the Brim Hats. But, again, why I fear more for Coco's sake here is that it feels like Kefrey right now is using her as bait. That's where it gets really nasty. I don't mind him doing all this stuff and investigating all that kind of stuff his own. Get Coco's memories wiped, get him out of the way, and then you can investigate all you want. But right now, it feels like Kefrey, with that whole final scene there, it feels like he's using Coco as bait. Like, that seriously is the part that makes it so wrong. Is that he's like, don't worry, I'll protect you. Like, yeah, there's all these anomalies, but it's okay. Don't worry, I'll protect you. It's almost like it's drawing a parallel between, Tarta and the whole idea of them having the silver eye thing and it being this thing that the witches see as an anomaly. And the unfortunate thing about witches, they sort of seclude people, I guess, people that have oddities about them, the outsiders. It's almost like he's drawing a parallel to Coco and the idea that she's an oddity too. Don't worry, I'll protect you. I won't let the other witches see you as an oddity. I'll protect you kind of thing. But it's the element of him, again, trying to keep her to himself so that he can use her to get closer to the Brim Hats. That's the thing that makes it feel really off. Because the assumption here is that he should have her memories wiped, get her back to a normal life, get her back to the village. She won't know what happened to Mom, but that's fine as long as she's safe. Right now, it feels like he's going, no, I want to keep her at my side. And that could be because he knows that the Brim Hats, no matter what, will go after Coco. There's a thing there that, yes, even if they do wipe her memory, he might know that she's still in danger, and so it's best to keep her memories, keep her at his side, yada, yada, yada. But goddamn, this whole episode's got so much for me to really think on, and I probably should go for scene by scene this so I don't forget anything, but let's kick things off in the beginning, having the whole opening segment where we have the Knights Morales coming after Coco. A very brief moment of, again, the fear of her losing her memories. We knew it was going to happen. Having a little comment made by Rishi about the idea that she doesn't like individuals or adults that treat children as inhuman. I think Agatha said something similar to this, where I'm kind of wondering if this is sort of a commonality in this world, and it could just be the phrasing there. A common thing that children will feel that parents never take them seriously. It could be like a play off of that, but it feels like with Agatha saying something similar to that, and now Rishi saying that, this is sort of a common phrase that they have. Again, treating children like they're inhuman, that until they become adults, they're just creatures or whatever. I don't know. But anyways, yes, eventually having Kefrey show up and, bat away Easthis? I think that's how you say his name, Easthis? Again, these names, Urugio and now Easthis. I think that's how you say his name. A very interesting comment made by Easthis in the idea that what they're seeing below them, this effect of turning everything into the sand, is very similar to something that's happened before. He says that Coco either, produced this spell, which, again, Kefrey's like, no, I haven't taught them anything of this magnitude. There's no way they would know. I've never taught them. I don't give them the tools or anything to actually do this. It's impossible. So the guy's like, yeah, there's a chance that, a Brim Hat got involved. You might not have taught, but they could have. That whole thing there. But he says it has to be something that's forbidden or altered some way because something like this cannot happen. The other cases where this happened was the Dada Range or the Shadow Forest of Trissas. So this is already kind of referencing back to the place where Coco went for her trial. Apparently that place is the way it is because it was altered by magic that was existing before the Day of the Pact. So that's very interesting. So this is a third occurrence, at least in the listing of all this, where something like this happened. A large-scale area of effect that something was done. So very interesting. Of course, Urugio interrupts them, says, hey guys, you forget what magic's for. You might want to come down here and help all these people. And a little bit cheesy having Coco and Agate, who were just bound, and Coco's mind was nearly erased. They got released, and within like seconds, Coco was already over there helping out the villagers. It was a little corny. It was a little corny idea of you parents are all arguing, but down here the kids are helping everybody. An interesting thing that happened during them helping out the villagers, at some point, the female, when she went to help out the boy, she wrapped the legs, and immediately the parent was like, hey, I seen you guys restore that banner that you guys have, or the pennant, and saying that magic has the ability to restore, you should be able to restore his legs. It's like, no, I can't do that. We all know the answer to that, and the fact that anything that alters the body is forbidden. So things like healing and whatnot is forbidden. So even if she does know that magic exists for that, and she looks like she does because she's obviously kind of, hesitant there, like, oh crap, he's asking something that I actually technically know, and now I have to lie. But yeah, he's kind of pushing on her to use some sort of healing magic, and she knows, no, I can't do that. No. That's where we get to the interrogation. One little thing that was interesting that was noted here is that, of course, he's noting that, some of these brim hats will actually tattoo themselves with some sort of forbidden spell or things that can enhance casting. That sort of tipped me towards the possibility of what happened to Coco with the situation, which ends up being ink, as we find out. But I thought for a brief moment, because it did show when Coco was, at the area with the dragon, before she woke up after that whole situation, it kind of showed the brim hat with her, and it looked like he went inside of her hat. And so I thought for a brief moment, with him mentioning this right here, that it was going to be a case where the hat, he drew something in there to amplify her magic, and then gave it back to her, and that was what was going to cause this whole situation. But either way, it's interesting to note that they tattoo themselves ways to, enhance their magic. But after this whole thing, for some reason, Kefrey just randomly says, hey, by the way, I'm going to let you take the exam. So Agate gets what she wants, which is a little bit out of place right here, but it's perfectly fine. It's just a good job, Agate. You get to do your exam there. It's kind of a positive message to have after all this, just because Agate right now, with this current situation, is wanting to get, proving herself, and to have that kind of awarded to her is fine. We got a little brief scene with Eastus and the Knights Morales and the fact they were pointing out the rumor about Coco. So this answers my question that I had last episode, that I kind of assumed that with the fact that, Tetia and Riche knew about Coco and this forbidden magic, why wouldn't they? It seems like they do know. But thankfully, it seems like they work based on evidence. So despite the fact that they're very quick to hear, jumping the gun and wanting to get involved with Coco and blaming her for this whole situation, at least it implies that a rumor they're not going to go with. At least with a rumor they're not going to go with. But it does seem like he's going to take it seriously. Like, even if it is a rumor, it does seem like he wants to push it out of Coco. He wants to interrogate it out of her, find out what happened with her house, find out what happened with her mother. But yeah, it seems like they are aware of what happened. They're aware of the petrification in that town and everything. And that's when we get to the ink. We get to the ink. First, we've seen that, Urugio has a sear wire wand, which allows him to engrave into rocks and whatnot and trees different circles, which allows him to create this bridge that can be temporary here. But yeah, Kefrey goes over, ends up finding her hat and her ink jar. I don't really remember if they ever showed the ink jar really kind of moved around or touched or anything like that. But yeah, we kind of find out here is that the little ink jar that Coco has been using back with the dragon and with the situation, it's refilling itself. Yep. that was a big tell there. Yeah, the question mark that I had at that point was like, okay, what is this ink? What is in the ink jar? What is causing this amplification? As we find out is, yeah, it seems like this brim hat individual is cutting themselves and dropping their blood into the jar, and because it has a seal that allows it to pair with another jar, Coco's jar is being refilled. And it's got an interesting mixture in there. They said it's something about a blue color. And I kind of wonder how much in there is like normal ink and how much of it is blood. And then, of course, the question mark there is, why is this brimmed hat's blood doing this? I mean, there's one side of it that this brim hat is, you know, a special type of person with a blood that can be used for magic. It could imply that all people, their blood can be used as magic. That would be a crazy twist there. Or if there is sort of a oddity about the tale that was told about this tree that gave its blood or its sap for the sake of this magic, and that there's a race of people. It wasn't a tree, it's a race of people that has the ability to do this. I don't know. I want to probably assume that this brim hat probably is just essentially mixing his own blood with ink in order to make it more powerful, and that's going to be some sort of hidden knowledge that is forbidden that actually makes magic more powerful. Something like that. But crazy little reveal there. I guess it sort of plays in with one of my predictions. One of my predictions was around the idea that she unknowingly is using something that the brim hat is applying. And here it's kind of that situation. He's, by proxy, affecting her magic. Crazy that Kefrey picks up on that, though, so quickly and is able to kind of figure it out because, again, that would have left Coco to have possibly done this multiple times. But yeah, the statement that the brim hat says, magic is a lie that fills the world with color. This hand may draw beautiful spells, but look how stained with ink it has become. The nature of a lie is that they are outed with close scrutiny. How long can the truth remain? I'm assuming this is, again, talking about the ink itself. That's my assumption there, is that, again, that if you mix blood with ink, it makes it more powerful. And that could be a lie there that is hidden. But it does say in general, magic is a lie that fills the world with color. I don't know, it just could be some weird riddle crap. But anyways, now that Kefrey knows this, they go off to go see Nonoa. And again, goes there, talks to Nonoa. Nonoa hasn't figured out how to separate the ink, but very quickly picks up on the fact the color of the ink looks exactly the same as in the jar. And Kefrey just rushes to try it out, and it amplifies the hell out of it. He decides to wipe Nonoa's memory. Now, the sad thing with that is, again, they've mentioned the fact that wiping memories can cause damage. Not that it causes damage, but it takes away what makes a person. At the very beginning of this episode, he said y'all have to be careful because they would have to wipe everybody's memory, and memories are what makes a person who they are. So that's not something you want to do. And sure enough, as we kind of see with the situation with Nonoa, it seems like him erasing Nonoa's memories has sort of affected him in a way. Because Tarta was very concerned about getting all the jars mixed up, and it kind of implied the idea that Nonoa would be upset about it. But Nonoa didn't seem to care. He said, what are you talking about? That's fine. No, what light are you talking about? He's so chill about the fact that all these jars are spread out there. It might be the fact that Tarta gives way more to the organization of these jars than what Nonoa does. Nonoa goes down there and goes, oh, this is fine. I can fix this. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Whereas Tarta, it's significant to him because this is something that he's allowed to do, and he doesn't want to mess it up. And by them being mixed up, he can't fix that situation. That frustrates him. But I don't know, I almost feel like the fact that he wiped his memory kind of changed Nonoa a little bit. And I think that is what obviously Tarta's picking up on. What the hell what do you mean you don't know what the light is? I think Tarta's going to figure out really quickly that Kefrey probably did something here. But no, going back to Kefrey just before he wipes Nonoa's memories, he says, I finally got it. Neither the Knights Morales nor the Great Hall can be allowed to have this. It's best if nobody even realizes that we know. Again, this implies to me that he's trying to keep this from the Great Hall, and there's a sense here where it feels like he wants to use this for his own advantage against the Brim Hats. Because at some point, Nonoa says, what are you planning to do with that ink? It gives a sense there where Kefrey wants to use this power. He wants to use it. It makes me wonder if the Brim Hats will end up knowing, because he's going to obviously give Coco something else. He gives her a whole bag, oh, that was expensive stuff. He didn't mean to do that. Here's this stuff. You play with this. I think he wants that ink for his own use. And again, that might be for the sake of taking down the Brim Hats. or potentially somebody else. Again, I go back to the fact that he doesn't want the Great Hall to know. Cannot have them know. Cannot have them have this. I think he knows that somebody's in that Great Hall that shouldn't be there. Other than that, we had a little brief scene with Coco and Tarta. Kind of got into a few different types of powders and whatnot. The one they mentioned in the actual anime is the invisible ink, which is kind of cool. The manga had a couple other ones, like one makes your ink not run with water. There was another one that made it glow in the dark. Some really cool different effects that you can do with the actual ink. So it sort of goes in with what was going on with the ink that Coco has, is that, yes, you have the base element of an ink, but what you add to the ink afterward gives it different effects. So obviously, again, this Brim Hat seems to be applying an application through his blood, but having these other ones like different herbs and whatnot to give it different effects is pretty cool. Question mark is if they ever actually apply any of that stuff in the future, if it's just cool little lore stuff that we'll never touch again. We'll see. But yeah, they wrap up the episode with talking a little bit about the, again, silverwash, with a thing that Tarta is sort of inflicted by. It gave a sense this entire discussion with Coco that obviously Tarta wanted to be a witch. Coco's like, I thought you were a witch already. It seems like, again, based on the fact that he has a silverwash, he obviously cannot apply this. And based on what Kefrey's saying, it does seem like it's specifically the witches themselves that are secluding him. That he can't be a witch because he has that. He's an exception. He's an exception that shouldn't be allowed in that world. And I do kind of wonder if it is an element of not being able to see what he's using. That if these different inks have different colors, again, mixing different things in with the ink itself in order to give it a different sort of power. They put so much pride and emphasis on the ability to have good eyesight as a witch that Tarta might be seen as somebody that shouldn't be allowed to be a witch. That seems to be what it's implying. But anyways, I think that's pretty much everything in episode 8 of which had Atelier. Really, really crazy episode. And a lot of it's around Kefrey and him being super sus. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. Until next time, you'll take care.